Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you what I think are the 5 essential tools for crafting. And let's go ahead and get started. They're not in a particular order, so we're just going to go through all 5 of them. The first one is a cutting tool. These are really things I can't live without. I'm showing here two ones that I have, and I got to tell you, the one on the right is the one I go to more. I love that it expands if you have larger pieces of paper. It's a Fiskars. I love that it's a self cutting blade that will sharpen. I love that you can just get these little pieces of paper, and you'll see that I go through and I'm doing like smaller and smaller, and you can with both of them. It's just my favorite preference. I know there's a lot of different ones out there. I had gotten this one from Joann Fabrics. I think they sell them online as well. So I like the fact, again, I don't have to replace the blade. Love that. The other one is also just, it's a guillotine, and it's really easy. It's a Tim Holtz, and it's really sharp. And so from that aspect, I like it. You'll also see it's got little guides so you don't cut your fingers when you're doing this because it is sharp, but you can get really small cuts here too. The downside is for me on the one that I have this size is that it does not, it's really hard to measure larger pieces of paper. So downside for me on that one. Number 2, scissors. Okay, I think you have to have an excellent pair of scissors. I have 3, and I use that big one a lot. I'm not a big fussy cutter, and I'll tell you what I use instead. But if you like to cut around images, and I think the first one that I'm looking at here is really good for that, as well as the second one. They're a little bit smaller. And you can see that I'm just not a good fussy cutter, but I love to have these on hand. They are super handy if you need to make some really sharp cuts. And the second one that I have there, the one with the red handle, one of the things that I like about it, again, very small, but you can really get in on a cut if you need to. And the handles are squishy, and you can use them either left-handed or right-handed. So I think that's pretty cool too, as you can with the pair on the right. So the larger pair, which tends to be the one that I go to for cutting. So I just think you can't go wrong with any of these, but the bigger one to me is used for for larger cuts, and it just works. They are, again, super sharp. Highly recommend them. The 2 on the right are Tim Holtz, and I believe the one on the left is Fiskars, but I'll include it in the links below so you guys can find that if you don't already have a pair. So the third one is a stamping tool, and I'm going to show you 3 examples here. This first one is by Tim Holtz. I think you can still find it on Amazon, and it is being discontinued, but it is very affordable. It's usually in the $20 range, and it does the same thing pretty much as the Misti, which is the third one I'm going to show you here. You should know this does work with clear, and it does work with rubber stamps. That's why you have the hinge, so you can flip it around to accommodate the thickness of the rubber stamp. It is magnetic, and so you can use magnets to position your paper, and that's the really cool thing. The benefit is if you don't get the stamp on the paper the first time, you can go back and easily make sure it's aligned in the exact same place to make it a second time or a third time. You can also use these to make multiple cards, so I think that's cool. This one, I don't use it very often, but what it's helpful for to me is putting sediments on a card, especially the clear ones. You can really see through and align that up with a card. So very inexpensive. Again, not my go-to. It will not allow you to re-stamp an image as easily, so you'd have to line it up. And then this is the Misti. It is the most expensive. It does have the hinge on it too for the stamps. It has the foam in there, so when you're using rubber stamps, you can pull the foam out and it accommodates for the thickness. So I think that's pretty cool about this one too. This is the larger version. There is one that comes in a smaller version, but you can see through and there's grid lines there, just like the Tim Holtz one. where you can line things up. And then there's a couple of additional features that you could use, and I'll show you those in a minute, to help with the stamping process too, when you want to stamp more in the center of a card or in the center of a piece of paper. So that's all you just see me doing here. There's this grid, and what I like about the grid is it makes sure that you line, especially your sediments, you're lining them up so they're nice and even on the grid, and then you take it out and you would stamp the piece of paper. So really, really easy to use. Again, I mentioned it's magnetic, so you can do that. So another accessory that you can buy for this are some guides that I mentioned. If you wanted to stamp in the middle of a page, you can use these corners, are one part of the kit, where you could do this stamping and then not worrying about the stamp hitting the edge of the Misti all the time. And then there's other ones that you can use in there that are for alignment. I've used them for sediments. And you can see there's 2 triangles and then more of a 90-degree ruler guide. And that one is pretty handy, again, for lining up assessments to make sure that it's straight on the paper. So you just line it up against the edge. You can put your sediment on the top of it and you just know that it's straight. So I think that's pretty cool. And then if you wanted to put your sediment maybe at an angle, you have the ability to do that with those triangles. So you know it's nice and straight. They would be at a perfect angle, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. So very cool accessories, not necessary, but just, some things that I use and wanted to show you. So the fourth one is a heating tool. I think this is really critical if you're going to be doing any sort of embossing. I have a Wagner version. I think that I've tried other ones and this one just performs the best for me, but there's so many different varieties and versions out there. It just heats up fast. It's just my go-to one that I pull out and use. So it's pretty awesome, but I think everyone should have one of these if you're going to be doing embossing. So the last tool on my list is a cutting machine, and I'm going to show you 2 versions, and I use them both. One, and the one I'm showing here, is a Gemini Junior, and it's an electronic machine. So what's cool about it is it moves pretty fast. I don't have to crank it. I just put the die sandwiched together and push it through. So pretty cool. I've had this when it first came out, so probably a couple of years now, or at least a year and a half that I've been using this. So I really like it, and would recommend it. You don't see me making the sandwich here, but you'll see how just smooth, and it's really good for intricate dies. But I'm curious, if you have one of these, comment below. What do you think? Or are you using other machines that, other than what I'm showing here? I'll show you again another manual one where it's not electric, but I'm curious what everybody else is using. And just in general with tools, do you agree with my 5 choices, or do you have other tools that you're like, I just could not live without, or different versions of them? Let me know, comment below. And also like the video. If you want to see more content like this, hit the alert so you'll be notified when something new comes through. So again, this is the Gemini. You can see it's good with intricate dies. That cut around is pretty cool, pretty clean, and you don't have any problems. So this is the manual one. It's by Sizzix, and I love it. I love it for different reasons. I think it definitely cuts dies really well, but what I really appreciate about it is that I could build my sandwich on a platform and then slide it through. I don't have to plug it in. So there's some benefits that I think I really enjoy about it. It cuts through most dies. Some of them, I will tell you that the Gemini can cut through much easier than this. And so sometimes I'll have to put them through a couple of times, but really on the intricate dies, the ones that are, pretty general or not a lot of detail in it, not too bad. You'll see that what I'm cutting here is a butterfly or a dragonfly, and it comes through without any problem. It cuts through and no worries. So it is really a go-to one, but I like them both. I don't know that I'd want to choose. So if you had to pick one, I'm curious what everyone else out there would do if you have both these machines or one of these machines or other versions. These aren't the only two on the market, so explore and see what's out there. And again, let me know what you guys are using. So let's do a quick recap. There's 5 tools that I said I think I need and I could not live without. And the first one was a cutting tool. So I showed you 2 different versions. The one on the right here is my favorite. I'll include links below of the ones that I do use. The second was a sharp pair of scissors that I think you have to have in order to do crafting. The third was a stamping tool, especially for making cards and using stamps. I think I could not live without this. It's my go-to item all the time. The fourth was an embossing gun, essential when you are doing embossing. 5 was a cutting machine, whether it's electronic or manual, a must-have. So if you liked today's video, go ahead and hit the alert so you get future ones and give me a like. I appreciate you joining today. Have a great day.